would. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Joe. How you doing?
I think I'm a little bit better.
You got to speak into the microphone.
Right. So I think I'm a little bit better. Yeah.
Let's do this. Right. There we go.
Okay. Let's try that. Can you all hear me now? Okay.
Before the break, I think.
I'm sorry, Mr. Presty.
Can you all hear me now? Okay.
Can you hear okay, folks? And I was going to ask the same thing. Okay.
I'm guessing probably
do me a
not.
favor and raise your hands if and when you can't hear, because it's really hard to tell whether people can hear in the particular space where they're seated. So let me know, okay?
Yeah, I'm.
Prestia, go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're okay. Let's talk. Let's pick up where we left off. We're going to follow up on a few things that came up this morning, but I want to pick up right where we left off, which was where I think at this point you were still living in California, right?
Yeah.
You had, and one of the people you said was a friend of yours was David Cote.
Yes.
Tell us about David Cote. Who is he, and tell us about your relationship.
He was he was the apartment manager's son. The context that he had come up in was that he had a father, and father, F-A-T-H-E-R. Father, dad.
Okay, I think she.
Oh, okay, I didn't know
okay.
if you were sorry. And that, because you were asking about father figures, and how, there was this guy, and there was Martin, and he was kind of a father figure, but not really, because he was...
You're referring to Martin?
Yes.
Okay.
Who was already a father, because he was the father figure of my cousins. And then you had this guy over here who was kind of a father, who, had some fatherly aspects, but he was the father of my friend.
Okay, and David's father, again, what did you say?
Was Andre.
Andre. Okay.
But as far as, actual people who were coming in and trying to take the role of being a father, we'd have these guys, they would roll in, show up for a month, hey kid, I'm your new dad, and then just after a month or so, they just kind of go. After a month of just laying around, drinking and smoking. So it would eventually get to be like, yeah, the reason that we're not able to go off and bring home anybody worth a damn as a father is because of me. And
well, hold on a second. Well, that seems like a bit of a non sequitur. Why do you say that?
Because this is what I was told. My mom had always pointed out, it's like, look, the reason that she can't bring home anybody who was any good was because of me.
Well, did you ever say, what kind of sense does that make?
No, because it was always that because she had a kid and all this other stuff, it made it really difficult for her to go off and bring home guys, and to go off meet guys or whatever. So.
But she did meet guys.
Yeah, but not ones that were worth a damn. So it's kind of became this thing where. Here's the thing: is that occasionally she would go off and meet guys who actually were decent, right? Like there was this guy Frank, that was Ian's dad, Ken. These were guys who...
Hold on. There was this guy, Frank, did you say?
Yeah.
That was...
No. There was this guy, Frank.
Okay.
And there was this other guy, Ian's dad, Ken.
Ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
These were both really, as far as I know, pretty good guys. These...
Now, hold on. I don't think you mentioned Frank this morning. Would you just give us a little bit of background?
No, I didn't. He was actually somebody that Mom had seen while we were in the pink stucco apartments.
In the pink.
Pink stucco
Okay.
apartments.
What was Frank like?
This was somebody who was actually a really good guy. This was somebody who actually had his stuff together. He had his own place. He had a steady, well-paying job. He had his own vehicle. I mean, you really could do a lot worse than this guy. And, we visited his place and we watched Star Wars, and I'm like, wow, this guy is really cool. He's telling me that, oh yeah, the Jabba's talking in Japanese or something.
You're talking about the figure in Star Wars, Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah.
That speaks what is actually Japanese?
That's what he said anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this guy is great, He didn't last long at all.
Why not? Why didn't that work out?
I don't know. Mom I don't know.
Okay.
Then there was Ken. He was somebody else who had a straight job. He was a good guy. We visited his home, and he seemed like a really good, he had his own place. He had all this stuff going on, and it's just like, okay, now it's on him again.
Okay, so now...
But it was the guys who would be just complete leeches who would just kind of like sit around, smoke, and then eventually go off and like find some gal who was like half their age and then run off with that, and that's who Mom would be, who would take home and marry.
Well, so just we're going to get back to David Cote, I promise. But
Okay.
These guys come in and they drink and smoke and lay around, but your mom doesn't do any of that stuff? She doesn't drink or smoke?
She doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke. She has some work ethic. She's just not very good at it. I mean, for example, when I'd actually managed to get back in touch with her after a couple of years of no contact.
Hold on. Give us some time frame here, Joe.
I was about to. When I was with Michelle in Kent Terrace, when I had first moved out here about 2004. And at that point, she had 2 jobs. She was working at a 7-Eleven and managing a Taco Bell. We aim high. And she's like, look, we're kind of strapped for cash. We're having problems, and if you send me some money, I'll totally, I wouldn't ask otherwise, but we really need it right now, and I'll totally pay you back. And it's just like, okay. Michelle fought me over it. I'm like, because she says, these guys aren't going to pay you back. You know how she is. She's like that. I'm like, no, she's actually trying now. And so over her objections, I sent the money, and then Mom flaked again. Mom flaked again. And which gave Michelle the excuse to say, look, your family is a bunch of trash, and I don't want to have anything to do with them at all anymore. I don't want to hear from them. I don't want to, if they don't write back, any of that. So, it's, the first thing that she did once she got money from me is to go and like quit one of her jobs. I'm like, so, that was one of the things where I'm just kind of like,
Okay, so hold on now. We're talking...
But the point of that was to kind of establish that she can, if she really feels that she has to. Usually, if she's got a fallback, she kind of gets lazy.
Okay, so let me jump in with a question here, Joe. We were talking about father figures, and you had your buddy, David Cote.
Yeah.
You're about how old at this point?
I don't really know. I think from about 11 to 16.
Okay, so you knew this guy for a few years, right?
Yes.
He's from a more stable family situation than yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what was your relationship like with him? What did you do together? What did you talk about? I mean, you must have talked about something more than fathers.
Yeah, we really talked about that. No, it's just, I don't know, we talked about pretty much whatever. I mean, young...
Did you play any games with him?
Yeah, we had various, he would go up, because he had a lot more money than I did, obviously, so he'd have video games and computer and stuff, and mostly I would just sit around and watch him play games and then help him do his chores stuff.
Well, did you ever play D&D with him or anything like that?
We played, That's what I meant by other games. We, I don't think we ever actually played D&D or anything, but we played other role-playing games like that. Yeah. You actually, a lot of times, what we would do is we would play those games, and then I would just kind of work off of kind of ad-libbing, where he would play the, like he would take the role of a character and just say, okay, what he's doing, and I would come up with what this guy is, what the world around him is going on, and what this person's going through, you know. If anybody's ever played D&D or any other role-playing game, which I'm guessing you probably haven't, but there's what each of the players controls a particular character going through their little thing, right? This is very much like what I was talking about with the writing group. One person writing group, where you have one person who sets up the storyline and comes up with what the background is and whatnot, and where it's going to be going and everything, and then you have the other people join in and go have they're only controlling their specific character, whereas the other person is controlling basically everybody else.
So you played this with David sometimes?
Yeah, he really liked it.
Games like that?
Yeah.
Did you like it too?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you play it with anybody else growing up?
How
about your brother, Chris?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Not often. He didn't really get into it too much.
Okay, so all right, so, and did you maintain contact with David Cote after that period in your life?
No. No, most of the time when I would move away, I would just lose all contact with the people that I knew.
Okay, and so you'd said earlier from California you moved up here to the Puget Sound area?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
And did you keep in touch with David after that?
Let's see, when I came up here from California, in fact, yeah, that was when we, I think what it is that, how did that work out? Because I remember actually having to go pay for Kathy paid for the truck, for the U-Haul, right?
Kathy Cote paid for the U-Haul?
The U-Haul, yeah. So, no, I don't really remember having any more contact with David after that.
Okay. Let me, the other thing you mentioned this morning, we talked a little bit about your relationship with your brother Chris, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad, yeah.
Okay, you had some complaints about his keeping up with things around the house?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
So, you mentioned this this incident with the trailer in Arizona where there were some other kids, I guess, calling you names and saying things about you, right?
More of bashing on the windows and doors and rocking the trailer and threatening to kill me, yeah.
So, was that the only time that something like that ever happened to you involving Chris?
Actually, no, that kind of stuff would happen more than... That kind of stuff would actually happen every so often, where he'd get... Like I said, it would be basically all of the chores would fall. Mom would have this view of, okay, I was expected to, because I was the oldest one, make sure that everything was taken care of. But if I was to go and complain to... If I was to go off and yell at at basically Chris, then he would go and complain to Mom, or she would go off and yell at me directly for doing so. So eventually I got to a point where I just got frustrated with that, and there was a couple times where I actually got frustrated and got physically violent with him. The first time he went to Mom, she got upset at me, as you've already heard. The second time he went to Aunt Mary, she came down on me, and the third time he had the cops called in on me. And
let me jump in. Let's talk about the cops.
Okay.
About how old were you, Joe?
I was only about 13, 14.
Okay.
What had happened in this particular instance is I had picked Chris up, flipped him over, and dropped him on his head.
Okay, he was probably a bit smaller than you at that time?
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't particularly big either, but yeah.
Did you get arrested?
No.
What happened?
No, they came in and told me that it doesn't matter why you're upset at him. It doesn't matter what your excuse is, that violence is not okay and will be followed up on it. It's like, okay, well, and so since then I just stopped, okay, because it became obvious at that point, and it's like, there's mom, and it's just, mom gets upset, right, and Mary gets upset, it's a little bit more, but then you have Cockmore, it's like, okay, right, I'm done, screw this, I'm just going to go take it on the jaw and just leave it.
You're just going to go do what?
I'm just going to take it on the jaw and leave it. So he can go off and do whatever he feels like. He can go and just get away with whatever he feels like, and I'll just have to take it, whatever, because there was no recourse. Because complaining just goes off and gets me ignored, and then I have to deal with it anyway. And fighting just goes off and gets me in trouble, and then I have to deal with it anyway. So what's the point of going and making any kind of a fuss?
When did you start thinking like that, Joe?
When did I start thinking like that?
Approximately what age?
About 11. I'd say it was kind of solidified at about 14.
Okay.
By that particular event I just told you.
Okay. So. Did you ever get treated or talk to a counselor or a psychologist or psychiatrist when you were young like that? CPS referred to something like that.
I saw a counselor once, twice, maybe 3 times.
And did you report Hold on. You gotta wait for the question.
Okay.
Did you report that this kind of thing was going on, or that you were having these feelings?
I'd like to note, by the way, that what I was going to say is that this particular counselor was at my school, right?
Okay.
And no, as
and no what?
No, in answer to your question, no, I did not tell him, my feelings or anything like that.
Why not?
As I don't like to I'd rather than getting upset at things or making people look bad or feel bad about whatever, I usually just kind of internalize it and ignore it. And then later on, when it comes up in situations where it might be important to notice or mention it, I have a hard time remembering it. And I don't, like Dr. Bennett said, I have a hard time opening up in general. I have a hard time in talking about things and specifically my problems. I mean, the only other person I had talked to about the past and what I've gone through is Michelle. And she used that against me. So
let me ask you a little bit more. I want to move us on from California and get us up here to the Puget Sound. A couple more quick follow-ups. Any further effect on your life that the ITP, the blood disorder, had?
The thing about the ITP is that it's something that could, like I was trying to say earlier, is that it's something that could resurface at any time. So I had resurface at any time. So it was something that I had to go and be careful with, that this could go, and any major trauma, any major illness, any major intoxication, I smoked for a little while, but not much. I never really drank. I never really used much in the way of drugs except for marijuana. And just, so that was that. And then, of course, the more important one was that for most of my life I had to go and feel there was the constant fact that I should have died then. And that I had come really close to dying, and that, 22 years old, well, I'm ready, apparently some part of my body's ready, okay, I should die, so
hold on, let's run over that again, because I'm not sure I caught it all. You felt like maybe you should have died?
That I should have died at that point, and so I was only
hold on, at what point, Joe?
When the ITP hit me.
When you were 1 or 2 years old?
Yeah. And so the fact that I was alive was basically an accident. And so I really had to go and justify the fact that I was still alive by being useful, which sometimes I was more than others.
Sounds like you were pretty useful around the house growing up.
I tried to be.
Did you ever talk to your mom about death or about these feelings? Hey, I'm feeling like maybe I shouldn't have survived that? Any kind of conversations with your mom about death or anything?
When I was, let me tell you something. When I was about 6 to 8 years old, I was about the first time I tried to commit suicide. Okay.
Oh, hold on. Was the first time you what?
Tried to commit suicide. I went and wrapped I was actually in a full room, and I went over and wrapped a cotton cord around my neck.
Hold on. You wrapped a what?
Cotton cord around my neck.
Okay.
And tried to asphyxiate myself. Now, I found out since then that doesn't actually work.
You've found out since then?
That doesn't actually work. When you pass out, you let go.
So, hold on. Where was this?
This was in the living room.
Of whose house?
This was in the living room that we were living in, with Aunt Mary, Martin, and everybody else.
So, Homestead or one of those places?
Yeah, Homestead, and everybody was right there. Now, where I'm getting at with this is that...
Wait a second. I'll let you tell us what you're getting at. Everybody was right there?
Yeah.
And you're like wrapping this curtain cord around your neck and nobody's saying, hey, stop that.
What I'm getting at is that if any of them end up like watching this or hearing this...
Would you say it again?
If any of them end up watching this or hearing this is the most they would know about it, as far as I know. Who,
Martin or Mary or your mom?
Oh, anybody, yeah.
Why wouldn't they know about it? Weren't they in the same room?
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't... tell us.
Because I was just... I don't know. I wasn't in front of them. I was off to the side. I was actually very... feeling really just... upset with myself, angry with myself, just really nobody gives a damn, and so I went out to prove it.
So you what?
So I went out to prove it, and guess what? I was right.
You went out to prove it, and you were right because they didn't notice? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Joe, didn't you have marks around your neck? Did you pass out? Like, what happened?
Actually, I talked to my grandmother who was dead at that time.
Your grandmother was dead at that time?
Who was dead at that time.
What do you mean you talked to her?
She told me to...
She was dead or she wasn't there?
Dead. Both, actually. So...
Hey, Joe, I'm sorry, you got to keep your voice up.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, this is really awkward for me. I don't really like putting myself out there. I'm a very introverted person.
Okay.
Introverted. I don't like talking about myself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you a whole bunch more questions about
That's
yourself.
Fine. A quick note, though, is, Dr. Dunn actually was right to not...
I don't understand that.
Dr. Dunn actually was right to not use a tape recorder, because I would have been a lot less ready to talk to him if he had that going.
Okay, well...
Right.
When CPS came in, they said that that the pain was all in your head. You said you were having all these aches and pains.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense, was that real pain, or where was the pain coming from?
I still get that sometimes. I actually, my own belief is that it's kind of holdover from last time I died.
Hold on. I think we better go a little slower through that. Is your own belief is that it's kind of a holdover from what?
The last time I died.
Okay. Explain that, please.
Well, people die, and sometimes they, people die and reborn, die and reborn.
People what?
What?
Die and reborn, die and reborn.
That's your belief?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the, after, sometimes they, if they die particularly badly, that kind of carries over. So
you thought the joint pain was what?
From that.
Somehow related to that?
Yeah, I just had a memory, I had a memory of that, and I woke up with that, and it just stayed with me since, for like the next decade or so, decade and a half.
Well, I guess I've got to ask, to follow up on that, do you have some sense that Nathan and Olivia are going to get reborn or something?
Yeah.
You do? So what, it was okay to kill them?
No. Look, just because at the time I believed that they were in this suffering horrible life, and
you didn't mention that to Detective Pavlovich.
because since then I've realized that that's probably not true. Between the time and when everything happened and the time when I talked to Detective Pavlovich, I came to the realization that that's probably not true.
When you say everything happened, between the time when you killed them.
When I killed them and the time, yeah. So, yeah. So I thought that they were having this suffering, terrible life, and even if they weren't doing badly already, they'd probably be doing pretty badly after going through that. So the only decent thing to do would be to save them from what would be a fate worse than death, and so allow them a chance to cycle through and have a new life.
Cycle through.
Yeah. And no, that doesn't make it any better if you're really looking at it, because it still leaves this huge hole in everybody else's life. It still leaves this awful damage in everybody else's life. I mean, these aren't people who didn't have friends. These aren't people who were like hermits who just lived as islands.
Would it be okay to kill them if they were?
No, it would not. What I'm getting at, though, is that there was this impact, and as we saw yesterday, not yesterday, but the day before, I mean, that was my version of hell, okay? Knowing that I have went and done this horrible, awful stuff, and made this huge, terrible impact in these people's lives. And for what? Because I thought I had to? Was I really that stupid? Yeah, I was, actually. Sitting here listening to my thing, I'm like, was I really this callow, this foolish, to fall for these things, this willfully ignorant, to believe her? Yeah. So...
Joe, I put a cup of water next to you up there if you need it.
Hey,
I didn't do it just now. I did it before we started.
I've been any trick you had.
Okay. We're going to talk more about that. I want to continue going through the chronology of your life, so make sure we get all this information.
Okay.
Did your mom ever date Martin, Aunt Mary's boyfriend?
Not that I know of. Well, not that I knew of. At this point, I think so, but that's only from stuff that I've found out since.
Okay. What caused you guys to move to Seattle? Why'd you do that?
I think it was the fact that she was getting kicked out of yet another place. And, I'd like to take a moment here to point out that...
Keep your voice up.
Sorry, I'd like to take a moment here to point out that this constantly getting kicked out of places and having things shut off, that really bothered me, I mean, nobody wants to be that person who's just like this low-life, just couch surfer, I guess, would be the way of putting it.
Just what?
Couch surfer would be the way of putting it. And, it was very obvious from early on that I and we were viewed as being parasitic because of that. And so when I was able to go off and move beyond that and, keep us from having, when we were in Arizona the second time, I was paying for everything, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. So,
but you were viewed as parasitic?
Yeah, that was my view of our financial situation in general as well. So.
Okay. So what made you guys move to Seattle? You thought you might be getting kicked out, but why Seattle?
Forgot about that. Sorry. Well, we would go on just little whims. She'd happened to see Sleepless in Seattle and recognize the Space Needle from a dream that she'd had. Mom, I mean. And so she'd found some place up here that rent was cheap at, and so we went up here.
Who'd you come up here with? How'd you get up here?
At this point, she had She had some guy who she was living with. No,
Were you-
she had some guy who was living with us. Sorry. It's Marty and the...
Marty?
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Is this the same as Martin, Aunt Mary's
No.
boyfriend?
No.
Different Marty.
Yeah.
Okay.
My guy. So, yeah, we had Marty and we, and I think Tony as well, who was another, he wasn't, he was Marty's friend, not,
Not Mom's boyfriend.
right.
Okay.
So we all moved up here like that.
Did Brian, whose last name we don't know, but who went to Sahuarita, Arizona, did he ever resurface?
He did resurface later on.
Where were you when he resurfaced?
I think we were actually back up here. Yeah, we were actually up here when that happened.
Okay. And did he live with you
I think we were with.
Back here? Back up here.
in the Seattle area?
Yes.
Okay. Did he live with you too?
For a little while.
Okay.
And then he went off to better pastures, I guess.
Okay. So you came up here with Marty and Tony
I
after
think so.
sometime around Sleepless in Seattle.
I'd say about a year after that, yeah.
Okay. So how old were you when you got up here? Do you know?
19.
Sorry.
19.
19.
Yeah.
Well, then let me ask you. So this issue came up about your schooling. How far did you go in school, Joe?
I dropped out the beginning of sophomore year.
And what town were you in at that time?
I was in Santa Clara at the time.
And tell us the story, please. Why did you drop out of school? I mean, you seem like a pretty bright guy.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that I simply wasn't doing well in school.
Why not?
Well, partially because I didn't have any books. That got in the way.
Hold on. How could you not? Was this a private school or something?
Well, no. Actually, I had gotten sick in class at one point.
You got
and-
sick in class?
Yeah. And I had said that I needed to go to the nurse, and so the teacher was just like, okay, just leave your stuff and go, right? So I just left. When I came back, he let somebody else take my stuff. So because I wasn't able to replace the books, we weren't able to get new books.
Wasn't there any inquiry? I mean, that sounds like one of these misunderstandings that happen all the time in high schools around the country, if not around the world. I mean, isn't there some way to kind of say, wait a minute, follow up with the teacher who took the books, et cetera, et cetera? Was any of that done?
No.
Did you... so was that the cause of your dropping out, or was there something else?
So that was part of it.
What was the whole
That
story?
was part of it.
Tell us the whole story, please.
The rest of it was that Mom was actually, at this time, she was doing really, her health was really, really bad.
What was wrong with her health?
Well, it turned out that she had a really malignant case of uterine fibroids,
Okay.
and that they eventually had to give her a massive hysterectomy to correct that. Unfortunately, they didn't realize that they had to do that for several years. That didn't end up happening until years down the line, so she was basically hemorrhaging every month. It's great. Yeah.
So, getting back to the high school.
She was, tired and exhausted all the time, and somebody needed to go off and watch the kids, and I just, I didn't feel like I was one of those, so it's just like, why even bother?
Where was that?
At the schools. I mean, the teachers looked at me like I was trash, and the students treated me like I was trash, and crap's sake, I was trash. So I just, I didn't like going, and eventually, when there was an excuse, I just left.
Were you getting in fights there or something?
No, I don't fight. I'm not a combative individual, no. No, just, they would, I can't even think about how to go off and make it clear now. It's, you don't meddle, screw off. Just another one. I mean,
So
it might not be obvious from how Joel and Colin this whole scene is, but it's just throughout everything has always been, you don't meddle, screw off, you don't meddle, screw off, you don't meddle, we don't want you, go away.
Is that how you felt?
That's almost always pretty much been. eventually I managed to go off and pick myself up and do a better job of things, and then I met Michelle. Things went really downhill.
But her family didn't treat you like that, did they?
Her family was great. Look, the only person in that entire family who was ever mean to me, who was ever cruel to me, who ever betrayed me or just treated me like crap was Michelle, the one I kept alive. But, no, I like these people. They were good people. I mean, when I called them mom and dad, it wasn't being ironic. I really did accept them as my mom and dad because I'm just like, by that point I had stopped having anything to do with my family because it had just become too much of a strain, because by that point I actually literally was carrying everything. I'm like, look, Mom, I can't do this anymore. It's just too much, okay? And so I left. And eventually I ended up meeting Michelle, and that worked out really well too, but her family was fantastic.
Okay. Did you meet Michelle when you were living in Arizona, or not until you moved to North Carolina?
Not until I moved to North Carolina.
How about the woman you mentioned in D.C., Griselle?
I met her when I was living in Washington, I believe.
Washington State?
Yeah.
And what about Amber?
I think I met her when I was living in Washington as well.
Okay. And did you kept in touch with them as you're in Arizona?
Yes. Yeah.
So why did you decide to move out, and why did you decide to move to North Carolina?
I decided to move out because, like I said, I couldn't handle carrying everybody anymore, and even when I'm giving them money to pay the bills, they won't pay the bills.
Okay, and at this point you're 21. It's 1999? 2000?
It was just after, it was just at the beginning of 2000.
Okay, so you're 21.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And your brother Chris then is 16, 17 years old?
Yeah.
Okay, was he still in high school?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did and you were tired of carrying everybody, why did you decide to move to Arizona? Excuse me, to North Carolina.
Sorry, I got things a little bit out of sequence. When I come back, Al take me up on the offer to be, the dad. He was just controlling everything. He was,
Al had taken you up on the offer to what?
To be the dad.
So he was being the dad?
Yeah. Usually we would get somebody in who would, okay, I'm going to be the dad. I'm going to be in charge of everything and tell everybody how to go off and do things. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. And Mom would just back him. But he'd get bored of it within a month and just bail.
Slow down, Joe.
Would get bored of it within a month and just bail. So, with Al, he just decided that everything was his, and just decided to roll with that. So anything that was in the fridge, anything that, when I came back, I was literally paying $300 a month to sleep on a fold-away bed in the hallway. And the fun part is, nobody else was paying rent this entire time. I didn't know this, but this was true. Nobody was paying rent at all. And the place was in my name still. So I was giving them money, and they were just, blowing it on whatever and wouldn't bother to pay the rent.
So why did you decide to move to North Carolina?
So at that point, I'm just like, part of it is that I just couldn't stand Al. And the other part of it was that I was done living at home at that point.
So, but why? I mean, there's, 50 states. You don't have to move to North Carolina.
Why North Carolina in particular?
Yes.
That was this gal that I met online.
There was a gal you had met online.
Yeah.
And what was her name?
Her name was Jenny.
And what did you know about her?
Well, she seemed lonely, and she seemed nice, and so I went over there to meet her and stuff. And
did she know you were coming? Did you have some agreement?
She knew I was coming.
Did you speak on the telephone?
Yeah.
I mean, moving across country is kind of a big deal.
Anyway, so I went over there, and
how'd you get there?
I took a plane.
You took a plane?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I took a bus. Sorry.
Took a bus.
Took a bus.
You rode the bus?
Rode the bus, and
you got to Fayetteville?
Got to Fayetteville.
And?
It worked out great. I never met her.
So you never met her? I mean, did you get there and you call and say, hey?
Yeah. Got there, called up, met her. She didn't answer, left her an email, or eventually caught up with her. we were going to go meet at this bookstore that had a cafe in it. We went there. Well, I went there. Waited all day. She never showed up. It was great. Worked out well.
Okay, so at this point, do you have all kinds of luggage, or just one suitcase, or what's your deal?
You can only bring so much when you're going on the Greyhound, so yeah, you
Right.
don't have much.
Okay, so you've got some luggage, but not much.
Yeah.
And so what'd you do? You had been working at Target in North Carolina, or in Arizona.
And I waited 3 months so I would be able to go transfer from that Target to this Target. And I wasn't able to go and set things up at this Target yet. I wasn't able to. So I was able to go off and get a little cheap hotel with the money that I did have, but I wasn't able to go off and get phone access. So I wasn't able to go online and talk with my friends or whatever. I wasn't able to call my family because I tried, but they got on the phone cut off again, strangely enough. And yeah. So I'm sitting there around Christmas thinking, wow, this is a really huge friggin' bummer, isn't it? And so after that, the HR guy came back and I was able to get a job and just walk there anyway, and it ended up working out really well.
Because you were just supporting yourself at that point, right?
Yeah, if
You're not supporting anybody else?
Yeah, if anything screwed up, it was on me, and I didn't have to worry about anybody else being excessive.
Okay.
So,
Let me ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
First of all, we saw in the video when you were being arrested this crow tattoo.
Hmm?
When did you get that?
I actually got that right before moving to North Carolina, like literally the day before.
Why did you do it at that point?
Because it seemed like a good idea to. The hope was that it would strengthen the connection between me and the totemic thing. Totemic thing. And I don't know if it actually worked or not, but it seemed like a good idea.
All the
And
traveling
that's
you had
what
done
they
before, you had done with your mom, right?
No. The trip to
Vegas.
To Tahoe, to Vegas, to...
Oh, right.
Was
You had gone on that trip. That was with adults when you were a child.
Yeah.
But as an adult, the first time you traveled alone was Arizona to North Carolina, right?
Yeah. I mean, even when I was living at home, usually when I would go places with Chris or with Mom.
Okay.
Usually not by myself.
Let me ask you something, Joe. All these places you lived when you were growing up,
Hmm?
neighbors dangerous at any of those?
No.
I mean, were you living... Doesn't sound like you were living in Hollywood Hills or anything.
No, I was living in pretty ghetto places.
Pretty what?
Ghetto.
What does ghetto mean?
Just low rent. If people are working, they're not working good jobs. They're working low end. Like service industry would be good.
Working class apartments?
Well, I must say working class because working class is more of everybody's working. They've got decent jobs.
So this is maybe
But
not everybody's working.
Low end.
Okay.
I mean, most people are working, and if they are working, they're getting. They're probably in line to get government assistance, or they're not working very good jobs, like they're working McDonald's or whatever.
Okay. Did you feel like the neighbors were going to attack at any of those places?
No.
When
I
you
mean, there
took
were
that,
concerns, but I mean, I didn't like leaving the windows open.
Sure, you're locking your door at night.
Yeah, right.
Were you crouched inside the door with a sword in one hand and a revolver in the other, or anything like that?
No.
No.
The only time I really felt any concern was when we were in the area when we were in the last place in Arizona where occasionally we would hear gunfire.
Okay.
There was some concern at
So
that
did you get
point.
yourself a gun at that point?
No.
When
No.
you took the bus alone across country, did you get a gun to protect yourself?
No.
When you got to Fayetteville, North Carolina, that's a military town, right?
Yeah.
Fort Bragg, isn't it that in the area?
Fort Bragg and Pope Air Force.
Pope Air Force Base, right. You have short hair like you have now at the time?
Absolutely not.
You had long hair, right?
My hair was down to the middle of my back at that time.
Okay. You live
I
in a
stood
good
out
part
like
of
a
town,
sore
bad
thumb.
part of
It was
town?
I need one person.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I stood like a sore thumb at that point. It was great.
You what?
Sorry, what was that?
Stood out like a sore thumb at that point. It was great.
You stood out like a sore thumb in that military town?
Yeah.
Were you living in a nice part of town or a not nice part of town?
When I first got there, I was not living in a very nice part of town.
Did you arm yourself with a gun?
No.
Did you ever get attacked when you were in your hotel room?
No.
You said it was a low-end hotel. Like what kind of hotel? Marriott, Sheraton?
The kind that prostitutes hang out in front of,
Kind that prostitutes hang out in front of?
and that
See any drug activity?
a little.
You didn't arm yourself.
No.
Okay. Now,
I mean, they mind their business. You mind your business. It's all good.
What'd you say?
You mind your business. They mind their business. It's all good.
okay. Now, how long did you live in Fayetteville before you moved out here?
Oh, a couple of years.
2 years, roughly?
I'd say so.
Okay.
Just so it's been noted, before I left Fayetteville, I'd actually moved first to a slightly nicer hotel, and then I actually got actually rented a room from some dude, and that was in a pretty nice area of town, actually.
Because you rented a room from a guy, and what kind of work did that guy do?
He was actually in the Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he an officer?
He was an officer, yes.
Okay.
He
So,
retired and signed back on as a civilian employee, as far as I know.
Retired what?
He retired and signed back on as a civilian employee as of the Air Force, as far as I know.
okay. Now, were you working at Target the whole time you were in Fayetteville?
Yes.
All right. And did you? Well, let me ask you this: Michelle really was your girlfriend, unlike Shoshana, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your first girlfriend? Where did that happen?
My first girlfriend actually was there. She
Was where?
was actually in Fayetteville.
Okay.
Her name was Kim. She'd had a thing where she kept falling down, so they put her on the operator, right? So this would happen sometimes where I would be on my day off, and she'd call me up and be like, "Hey Joe, you doing anything today?" No, I guess not. I had a really hard time saying no to anything, right? So, yeah, no, I guess not. Okay, so you want to come into work today? This particular time, it started off just like that. You doing anything today? No. You want to go out? What? Yeah.
So she asked you out,
Yeah.
and you had a relationship with her.
Yeah, we,
Okay. And
went on a couple,
Joe,
sorry.
it's okay. You said she had a thing. She kept falling down. Did she have anything wrong with her?
I eventually went with her to the hospital for support, and she found out she had MS.
How old was she?
She was only, like 19, 20.
Okay, so it's pretty
Yeah.
young for a diagnosis of MS. But she was your girlfriend for a while, right?
No, not really.
Well, did you have a physical relationship with her?
Yeah.
Okay. And
But after she found out that she had MS, she's like, "Look, I can't handle you and the MS." Maybe if
so,
I had been able to drive, it would have been different. I don't
I
know.
didn't hear the last.
Maybe if I had been able to drive, it would have been different. I don't know.
just got to speak up, Joe. I didn't hear you.
Maybe if I had been able to drive, it would have been different. I don't know.
Okay, but she broke up with you at that point?
Yeah.
And what was your response to that?
Just finally depression, you know.
What's that?
Just incredible depression and really trying to change that. Didn't work though.
Really trying to change that and what?
Didn't work though.
Okay.
So-
So were you still getting up out of bed and going to Target and working and everything like that, though?
Yeah, I mean, people were depending on me to go there to do my job. So
So you did it.
when people depend on you to do your job, you do your job. Yeah.
Right.
Look, my mom was not really reliable. She would. The guys she would bring home were not really reliable. So somebody had to be reliable. Somebody had to be somebody that you could count on.
Okay.
So that was.
So let's quickly move through because I'm really trying to move us along
Okay.
here. Other important relationships that you had in Fayetteville? Any other girlfriends?
Well, she wasn't in Fayetteville. Katie was actually somebody who I had met through a friend from writing, and she was actually over in Nacogdoches.
That's in Louisiana?
Yeah, Natchotties. I think. I don't know. Sorry.
They won't judge you on this.
Yeah. So I went over there, and at first I wanted to just like move over, just fly over there and move over there again. She's like, no, maybe you should be a little bit more cautious this
So
time.
hold on. You were going to move over there to Louisiana to be
Yeah.
with this woman? How long had you known her?
I'd say about 6 months.
Now Kim, she was there in Fayetteville with you, so you didn't have to move anywhere for her.
Yeah.
Okay, but Katie, you about 6 months. You'd never met her. You were going to move over there, and she said maybe not.
She said, maybe you should just come and visit first.
Okay, and so is that what you did?
Yeah.
And how did that work out?
We met and we got together, and things went really well for about 3.5 days.
And then?
And then she rolled over and told me, I don't love you anymore. And told me to get out of bed and just never explained to me why it didn't work out.
So did you get out of bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else in that relationship?
I spent the next 3 days trying to get her to explain what happened and why. That didn't work. And eventually, she got a really clean house out of the process, though.
And then what?
I ended up, in being really frustrated, I ended up going and cleaning the entire house up really good.
So wait a second, Joe. Hold on. So you go down to Louisiana to meet this woman.
Yeah.
After 3 days, she says, get out of bed. You get out of bed. And you stayed for a couple days then?
I had my return ticket wasn't for 3 more days.
Couldn't you bump it up?
I don't know.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Kim had MS. Did Katie have any problems like that?
She had a really severe depression. She'd actually had her entire forearms were slashed down on each side.
She was cutting on herself?
I don't know if she was still cutting on herself, but she had cut on herself, and that really made me feel like, she could use some, I guess not.
Like she could use some what?
Support, somebody who cared about her. I guess not.
So did the fact that Kim had MS, was that something that was good for you? Or what?
No, I mean, granted, once I found out that she had MS, it's like, I was really kind of surprised that she got rid of me afterward, because I totally would have. I was like, I really wanted to take care of her after that, But
okay, so that with Katie didn't work out. There was another somebody else that Dr. Dutton mentioned. There was somebody in Philadelphia. Tell us about that relationship.
That was Adrian, right?
Tell us about Adrian.
I went out there to. This was another one where I flew up there and hung out there for about a week, and we set up a place to meet. And this is before cell phones. Just
And you were really there for a week, or are you exaggerating, or you were there for 7 days?
For a week. And I'm like, okay, well, how about we try again? She's like, no, how about we don't?
So did she have some kind of issue as well, like
No.
Katie had? No?
No.
Okay.
Nothing
Now, any other women that you visited? Didn't you visit?
Yeah.
Who was that?
I actually visited Amber at some point as well.
Okay, so you're still in touch with Amber.
Yeah.
And Amber lives in
Vermont.
Burlington?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and how did you get up to Burlington?
I took a bus.
From Fayetteville? Okay. And did you... now, Amber was not your girlfriend, though, right?
No, she was just a friend that I was visiting, and we ended up doing stuff, and it was one of those things where I kind of left it open to see if she'd wanted to follow up on that, because I'm not... I didn't want to go off and press her or anything.
You didn't want to what?
Press her?
You didn't. When you said we went up and ended up doing stuff, did you have an intimate relationship with her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but nothing came of it beyond that?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Now...
So...
And when you were done, how long did you visit Amber?
I visited her for a week.
And then you went back to Fayetteville?
Yeah.
Did you talk to Amber often on the phone?
Yeah.
How often?
No, I talked to her. I talked to her all the time. Not all the time, but a lot. On the phone, online, whatever. So
you got to know each other pretty well?
Yeah, we were really good friends.
And
She had somebody had attacked her, and through a mutual friend I found out that somebody had attacked her, and it's like, okay, well, let me talk to her, and so I was able to go off and help her through that, and we ended up becoming friends after that.
Joe, I missed that whole thing. You got to speak up and go through it again slower.
Somebody had attacked her, and I found out this from a mutual friend, and because the friend was like, yeah, I'm talking with my friend Amber, somebody had attacked her, and would you like to help? And actually, I think I said, hey, can I help? So I did, and we ended up becoming really good friends from that. So
Okay, so you helped her out, what, emotionally?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and just being there to talk to, you know.
Just being there to talk to?
Yeah. Trying to help her out as much as I could.
What's that?
Trying to help her as much as I could. So,
Okay. Now, in the course of all this, when you're in North Carolina and you're working, you met Michelle, right?
yeah.
You met her online in some writing group?
Yeah.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, did Amber know Michelle?
No.
Never had any contact with her through the writing group?
No. They were different groups.
Different groups.
Yeah.
And how did you decide, what was your relationship like with Michelle before you moved out here?
It was pretty positive. She came across as very sweet, very nice. Mostly a very sweet, very cute person, you know.
Did she send you pictures or anything?
I actually sent her a camera. She sent me some old pictures, and then I sent her a camera.
So Michelle sent you old pictures and you sent her a camera?
Yeah.
And did she then send you some new pictures?
The pictures that she sent showed her as being actually pretty athletic. You know, they were
Pretty athletic?
Yeah, they were from her high school years when she was athletic, and she said that she used to like run track a lot and walk out and all this other stuff. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. But
Keep your voice up. Keep
Sorry.
speaking into the microphone.
And so, if you guys wonder why I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm looking at this to keep my mind on it. Sorry, don't forget it. So, I had so I sent her. So I bought her a camera, sent it to her, and she sent pictures that were basically she would push her stuff up in, so face shots, right? And yeah.
And so in the meantime, you're living with the Air Force officer, former Air Force officer?
Yeah.
You're working at Target?
Yeah.
How are you getting back and forth to work?
I have a bike. At this point, after moving in there, I actually got a bike. And in fact, before moving in there, I got a bike, learned how to ride a bike. And
You get yourself the bike?
actually, the people at Target gave me a bike because up till then I was just walking.
You were walking?
Yeah.
How far?
A couple miles.
And you never at that point thought, hey, I could get a car and drive this?
No.
Okay, so they got you a bike and you're biking to work.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? Are you socializing with the gentleman you lived with? What was his name?
Brian?
Brian?
Yeah.
You're socializing with him or his roommates or anything else?
Not really.
What were you doing with your free time?
I was mostly online.
Mostly online, and you're talking to Amber.
And
Right.
my other friends, yeah. Writing and stuff, yeah.
Okay, and then you meet Michelle.
Yeah.
She sends you pictures.
Yeah.
How long did you know her before you decided to move out here?
I think about 6 months.
Okay, and now, I mean, with all due respect, your track record with meeting girls online and having it work out is lousy, right?
No, sometimes it worked out great, and I didn't meet them.
Well, unfortunately,
Actually,
you met Michelle.
One of my leads, I told him that I was going to be doing this, and he's like, are you sure this is a good idea?
One of your leads, one of the supervisors at Target?
Yeah. So, I'm no. He's like, he was concerned. I'm like, no, I'm not worried about it. It's okay. Yeah.
So, you decided to move out here.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with all your stuff?
I packed all my stuff up and sent it through the mail because she's like, well, my mom works at the post office. It's no big deal. So
For her mom to pick up all your stuff?
Pick all that stuff up and just bring it back and just put it in a closet or whatever. So that's what we did.
But I mean, you had moved across the country from Arizona and got stood up.
Yeah.
You went to Nacogdoches, Louisiana, however you pronounce it. My apologies to the good people of Louisiana. And you got tossed out after 3 days. And then you went to Philly and you got stood up. And now you mailed all your stuff to Washington State?
Seemed a good idea at the time.
Okay. And what happened when you got out? How'd you get out here?
I flew out here, actually. The plane got kind of sidetracked, so I ended up taking an extra day. But I eventually got out here.
Okay. And what happened when you got here and you met Michelle?
Actually, I came out here on, I think, April 2nd. So,
How about that?
yeah. So,
April 2nd, 2002?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So,
You got out here, and what did you think when you met Michelle? Everybody's already seen my unfortunate and impolite remarks about that, and I apologize, but I own them. But what did you think?
my first thought was that, now keep in mind, before I had come out here, she had described herself as being very athletic, very muscular, almost like Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2. Anybody
Like
seen
Linda
that?
Hamilton in Terminator 2?
Yeah. If anybody's seen that. If you haven't, she was very muscular but trim, right? In that particular movie. As opposed to like androgynous muscular, I guess. Anyway. She looked really good. But
Okay, and did Michelle look like that when you met her?
Well, no, actually. I had kind of honestly forgotten that what Linda Hamilton had looked like in Terminator 2 because I hadn't seen it in years. So I'm like, is that like really muscular? I don't really know. And she's like, no, it's not too muscular. So I come out here and she had, she shows up about half an hour late and she had like just literally rolled out of bed and thrown on whatever. So keep in mind, in all the pictures that she had sent me prior to this, she had on just really elaborate makeup, right? And this one she didn't even bother with that. This time she didn't bother with that. She just kind of showed up. She wasn't particularly muscular. She was kind of big actually, and I was kind of taken aback and surprised. I didn't say anything, but I was just like, oh. And I guess she saw my reaction and held that against me, but I'm just like, whatever. I came out here, we got in the car and I'm just like, wow. Whatever. I came out here because I care, because I love her, not because of the size of her, right? So whatever. So.
You said you loved her?
Yeah.
You had never met her, though, right?
No.
So how'd you know you loved her?
We emailed and talked
Talked on the phone?
on the phone.
This was before the days of Skype?
Yeah.
And what did she tell you about her situation, like, as far as before you moved out here? Did she say, hey, I'm dating this guy Mark Mann and I'm living with him, or what happened?
Actually, she told me that she was living with, that she had had a roommate who was female, who had recently joined the army, and the roommate's boyfriend was still there and would be moving out as I was moving in. That would be Mark Mann, and that she hadn't been with anybody in about 6 months, but that she had just gotten an abortion.
Okay. Well, but Joe, when did you learn that Mark Mann, in fact, was her boyfriend?
I think the first time I really believed it was when I heard the tape of that phone call, actually. I hadn't heard that he was her boyfriend until somebody had... One of the attorneys had mentioned that... Yeah, Jesus mentioned something that Jesus had meant
Hold
somebody
on a
else.
second, Joe. Hold on. The short answer, because I asked you when, without the whole
sorry.
deliberative process. One of the attorneys, were you ever represented by an attorney before December
Absolutely
24th,
not.
2007?
Absolutely not. There was ever any reason for me to be represented by an attorney before
So
this.
when did...
Sorry, I didn't hear it. Please repeat, sir.
There was never any reason for me to be represented by an attorney prior to any of this.
Okay, so
Sorry, I need a drink.
you didn't learn that Mark Mann had been her boyfriend until after you had already killed the Andersons and been arrested and sent to jail, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but till that point I thought he was just this creepy guy who would hang out around her, and she would always was like really into her. And
Speak up.
up until then I had only known him as this creepy guy who was always hanging around her and always mooning around and just very off-putting. And I'm like, look, can we not have this guy around? You have to hang out with this guy? And she's like, oh no, it's cool. I never had anything with him. He's just obsessed with me, and I get stuff from him. It's what she would call torment.
Say that again.
It's what she would call pardon, but the term that she would use is asshole tax. Sorry, but that's the term.
What's that? What's the asshole tax?
It's actually from this movie, Fight Club, where somebody's not a pleasant person to be around, so they have to get you stuff to keep them around. I mean,
so that you'll tolerate them being around?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so that's how she referred to getting things from Mark Mann?
Yeah.
What kind of things would she get from him?
She would go and get movies, and he'd go out over and, like, you know, he would actually buy her meals and bring them to her while she was at walk and whatnot. And I'm just like,
While she was at
walk?
work?
Yeah, over at Seattle Tower, actually, right? You know, I never liked that, but I'm just like, well, if there's that, then she's like, you trust me, don't you? Yeah, I guess I trust you, but whatever.
So you moved in with her to Kent Terrace Apartments in Kent?
Yeah.
How soon after you got here did you start working?
I think it took about a month, actually, because when I came out here, the guy...
Took about a month to work where?
At Target.
Okay, so basically you transferred to Target
Yes.
up here. Okay. And how close was that to where you were living at Kent Terrace Apartments? Did you have to drive it?
No, it was down the street.
So you could walk?
Yeah.
Okay. And Michelle at the time was working where? Seattle Tower?
Yeah, actually.
That's one of the buildings here in the downtown area?
Yes.
And what was she doing there? Sorry. Neighbors might be dangerous.
You know, she'd actually mentioned that before I'd even come out. That one of the things that she was concerned about was that the neighbors were dangerous, and that she really wanted to go off and have somebody around, not only to help pay the bills, but because the neighbors were dangerous, to help protect them. So even if things don't work out, she would still need a roommate.
I mean, did you ever say, well, hey, I'm not really the guy that gets in fights?
No.
And did you have a gun or anything before you moved out here?
No. In fact, by then, like I said, I pawned my sword and sold all my knives. Well, left all my knives behind.
What kind of knives did you have?
Oh, I used to collect knives. Before I left Arizona to go to North Carolina, I left all my knives behind.
Okay. So...
My grandfather collected swords, so I couldn't afford swords, so I just collected knives.
Okay. So, Mark Mann also mentioned something about it had been something Michelle had, some kind of fantasy of hers to kill her family. When did that first come up, or did it come up with you? Obviously, it must have come up at some point.
Yeah. When I had first met her, one of the reasons that she wanted me to come out here instead of the other way around was because she had her family here, and she was really close to her family, and it's like, great. I'm very glad that you're close to your family. That's fantastic that you're close to your family. I wish I was close with my family, so I moved out here and to help her be close to her family. And
well, but at what point was my question?
At what point? She had always had a problem with her father.
When did she reveal that to you?
I don't remember. I don't recall if she mentioned that after I came out or before I came out.
Okay. So, what kind of problem? I mean, you know, everybody maybe doesn't get along with a parent perfectly. That's nothing out of the ordinary.
She viewed him as being a very abusive, vicious person.
And did you have any independent verification of that?
No, not at the time and not since.
Not at the time and not since?
No.
Okay, so you moved out here to Kent Terrace Apartments. She had mentioned the danger in advance, and then we also know that at some point when you moved out here, you bought a gun.
Yeah.
Tell us about why you bought guns.
I had bought the initial gun, which was the 357, because we were living on a third floor apartment, and we actually had people who were climbing up the balcony of the second floor apartment and like trying to break in. And some of them were actually trying to climb up to the third floor apartment as well, which was us, of course. So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this is not okay, right? And
So let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay.
Somebody's climbing to your third floor balcony?
yeah,
Like Spider-Man or like an actual real person?
No, just like a regular person.
I mean, did you ever see them on your balcony?
They didn't make it to the balcony, no.
Because you're on the third floor.
Tried. They got up to the second floor, and they were trying to get up to the third floor, but
And who were these people?
just some neighborhood guys.
Kids or adults?
I would say kids, but I don't mean like,
Not 4-year-olds.
10-year-olds or 4-year-olds or anything. I mean like 15, 16-year-olds.
Okay, so they're teenagers.
Teenagers, yeah.
And were they rowdy?
Very rowdy. That's why they were climbing up and trying to bash down the door.
Bash down whose door?
The door downstairs.
But they never came on your balcony.
No.
Did you ever think, I'm taking it you rented, you did not own, correct?
Right.
Ever phone the landlord and say, hey, problem with the neighbors here?
Didn't want to go and draw attention to ourselves. Usually drawing attention to oneself is a way of drawing attention to oneself. Marking yourself with a target, right?
Marking yourself with a target by complaining about kids climbing up the balcony?
Yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with Michelle where it was like, what reasonably can we do about this? Like, oh, I don't know, call the police?
Actually, yeah. And we were concerned that if we did that, that the police would come up and they'd all just, say, okay, it wasn't me, And then they'd all come up and then they'd attack us for doing so.
But, you mentioned this experience with the police when your brother called them when you were 13 or 14 years old. Any other run-ins with the police in your young years?
There was a couple times that I've been pulled over.
Pulled over?
Yeah.
I thought you didn't drive.
On a bike.
Pulled over on a bike. For what?
Looking suspicious.
In Fayetteville?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get ticketed? Did they
No.
beat you up?
No.
Search you?
They searched.
Why did they pull you over?
Because I looked suspicious.
Did you look like somebody who matched the description of someone who had committed a crime?
That's what he said.
Okay. And did you cooperate?
Yeah, of course.
But he didn't do anything illegal?
No.
Okay, so what's with the... Why not just call the police? Where did you get this idea that it's going to mark you as a target or something?
I don't know. I was just concerned, I guess. I don't know.
Concerned about what?
I don't know. I was just concerned that they wouldn't take us seriously. I guess. So, that they'd come over and just kind of poke around and just bail.
And just what?
Come over, poke around and just bail.
And disappear?
Yeah.
Did you... Now, you knew that Michelle, she had said some things maybe about her dad, but did she talk to you about her relationship with the rest of her family and her brother? Did she mention that
she got along really well with everybody else. She actually would often go and compare me to Scott in a way where I came up, shortcoming.
I missed most of that joke. Try it again.
It's one of those things where I would often be compared to Scott unfavorably.
You were what?
Compared to Scott unfavorably.
Okay.
Most people would be compared to Scott unfavorably, though. He was a good guy.
Okay. But did you ever meet Scott?
I met Scott, eventually I met Scott.
Okay.
He was concerned that this guy had went and come all the way out and wanted to make sure that she was safe.
So he was keeping his little sister safe?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, and you met Scott? Did he seem like a decent guy to you?
Yeah.
All those good things people said the other day, those sound pretty much true to you?
I don't doubt it.
Don't doubt it? Okay.
I don't doubt it.
So why not, if you've got trouble with the neighbor kids and you're concerned about the cops, why not say, maybe we should talk to your family? You got a good family. Say, hey, we're worried about this. Did you ever do that?
Actually, she did that. She
Okay.
did call the family and talk to them about it, and they just didn't seem too concerned about it, I guess. I don't know.
There's a mention in your journal, and I think that it was read into the record at one point, but if not, we could certainly do that, about borrowing a gun. Maybe it was a gun that had belonged to Ryan at one point?
Ryan was, at that time, he had a .45 that he'd given to Scott to hold on to. And so Shell asked him for that, and Scott's like, yeah, Ryan wants that back. So Then she talked to Wayne about it, and so Wayne had let us borrow a .22 rifle.
Okay.
So,
But there was never any discussion of, like, what can we do about this situation of people climbing the balcony other than arming ourselves?
not that I know of, no. I mean, we tried to come up with other things, but that just didn't.
Did you ever talk to anybody at work about it? Hey, we're in a dangerous place?
No. No.
Okay, and was Michelle continuing to work as a security guard this whole time?
She might have moved to a different building by this time. She might have moved to a different building, but I'm not sure. She was still a security guard, yes.
And you never could come up with any other solution other than arming yourselves?
It seems like an obvious oversight now, doesn't it?
Pardon me?
It seems like an obvious oversight now, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It seems like an obvious oversight now, doesn't it?
After you killed her family, you mean?
Actually, I meant, now that it's pointed out, but yeah. Yeah.
Your Honor, may we break for the day?